Hey everybody, Cathy McLeish, alcoholic, and I am here today with Alcoholism Unpacked, sober 37 years, and I got sober when I was 27. So I want to talk today about when you get sober, when you think about getting sober, and maybe you're young, or maybe you're just in a group of people that feel young. Like, are you ready to have that sobriety for the rest of your life? And I have to say, for me, I overthought the whole situation. And in my experience with alcoholics for the past almost 40 years, we are overthinkers. So we worry about things, we think about things, we worry about what other people think. We do a lot of this mental gymnastics that doesn't really matter in the end. And while I was thinking about all this stuff and how it would work out or what life would be like without alcohol, I was really cheating myself out of days and months and years of a better life, because ultimately, in one sentence, it's a better life. If you're struggling with alcohol, if alcohol is even taking up more of your time than you want, if it's taking its toll on you financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, if it's messing with your relationships, then it is taking too much away and not giving enough back, especially towards the end or after I was young and, that time had moved to where it wasn't just this fun, this crazy stuff you did when you were in college or fresh out of high school or in your 20s. It had moved to this different type of drinking that maybe I should have been doing it and maybe I shouldn't have been doing it. And I don't mean like by right or wrong. I mean, I was wanting to move on in my life with different things, and it was keeping me from doing that. So when I say shouldn't have been doing it, maybe it wasn't serving me anymore. And that's what I found when I stopped drinking. So the purpose of a video like this is for me to tell somebody that can't really wrap their head around what it would be like, that can't really maybe even see the truth about what alcohol is taking versus what it's giving back anymore, for me to say that it would be okay to try this other way. And if you don't like it, if in a month, 2 months, you're like, well, that was a waste of my time, you can always go back. Why couldn't you go back? You could. But when I was a month sober, 2 months sober, I was like waking up to this world of opportunity that in my late 20s, I felt like I was behind the game. I felt like other people were ahead of me. They were doing things, fun things, getting things done, accomplishing things that made them feel good about themselves. And it's not the worldly things I'm talking about. When I got sober, I think it was the first time, and I didn't even do it for myself. If you watch my videos, I really did it for my children. Not that I was all that, but I was married to an alcoholic who was practicing alcohol just like me. So alcoholism was rampant in our house, and it was ugly. It was to the point of domestic violence, emotional abuse. It was taking its toll, and I felt like if somebody didn't do something, the kids were, and they would have all gone under for a lifetime. And so just through grace, I got sober. And when I did, a byproduct of that, I felt good about what was happening in my family, but I felt good about what was happening with me. And like I said, I probably never would have done it for me. But on the other side, I felt like, you deserve this. You kind of belong here. You belong in a world where you can predict what's coming, where you can show up, where you can hold your head up and feel good about yourself. You belong in a world where you can say you're going to do something and you can keep your word. That's who I was at my core. And I believe that's who we are at our core. Alcoholics are not bad people. We end up in this disease that has this moral judgment because we do crazy, rotten, even bad things. And with our alcoholic choices comes this judgment that is so full of shame, and it's just so harsh that it is really hard to break through it to get to sobriety, to get to that life that we were intended to live, to be the people we were intended to be. So when I look at my life back then, when I look at the people that I was surrounded by, was there anything wrong with those people? No, not particularly. I have to say, I was clinging to a lot of people that the depth of the relationship certainly wasn't what I thought it was. And when I moved out of that, I didn't need to feel guilt. It's like friendships change, people change. Some of the same friends I had when I was drinking, I still have today. I was drinking with people that even maybe I was pulling down. Now, were other people pulling me down? Yes, probably. But I was pulling siblings and I was pulling girlfriends into this drinking atmosphere that they were only in sometimes because of the pressure that I gave them to join me. So when I got sober, those were people that didn't even drink to excess. They were people that drank socially, some of them don't even drink hardly at all today. And at that time, I was probably a detriment. So when I got sober, their lives were able to be a little more naturally what they were intended to be. And the people that I drank with, because they drank like me, our lives went separate ways, but it was the way that it was intended to be. Some of them sobered up and they had good lives, and we weren't, intertwined, and that's okay. And others, never sobered up, and that was the life that they chose. And maybe they went downhill, maybe they succeeded and failed. I haven't kept track of all of them. But I guess my point is, I was in this circle of people that I felt maybe I almost even needed to stay in. And once I got out of it, it was like that was just a phase of my life. And it correlated with my drinking. And when I chose to move on to the next phase of my life, the way that those friends and those activities dispersed was just the way that it was meant to be. And it was all okay. In this new life, things changed as well. And they changed so much for the better. The people that I started to run with, the people that were in my life, were people whose lives emulated mine and my new desires and my new interests. And they lifted me up, and I was able to lift them up. And so I began this life with new friendships and new people, and it wasn't like I did anything down and dirty to my past. It wasn't like that at all. I had spent way too much time thinking about what will they think? What will they do? What will they think I'm too good for them? And it's like, people that are drinking, people for the most part, aren't thinking about anybody but themselves. And I don't mean that as a selfish, totally self-centered thing, but that's how we are. We are usually thinking about how things are and how they're going to relate to us in the next 24 hours. So, do I care about the people in my life when I was drinking as much as I really could care about them? But the fact that I stepped out and I went forward was the best thing that I could have done for me. And again, I just want to say that felt really good. That for once it was like about Cathy in a good way, about telling myself that I was worth trying something new. The old stuff wasn't working. It wasn't making me feel good about myself. In fact, I had more regrets and more shame than I really deserved to have. But I would even drink at that because I was confused and I was stuck. And so when I got out and I did something different, again, I could have gone back if I didn't like it. But when I did something different, I felt like I was actually, for the first time, honoring the person that I was capable of being. And it was like I was in my own corner and I was helping myself to go forward. I was maybe getting out of my own way is the best way to say it. So if you're in a place where you're thinking about doing something different, don't worry about everybody else. For the most part, we become better people. We become better siblings, better children, better workers, better family members if we already have our own family. And we serve the people in our life so much better. But most importantly, we serve ourselves. And we start to realize, we start to get the dreams or some of that vision that we had for our own journey, and not in a selfish way, in a way that we are doing what is good for ourselves and we're pulling others along with us in a positive direction. So take a week, take a month, make a phone call, get some kind of support system, because I never really will advertise some program or say this works better than that. People have to find their own way. But I will say this, I never could have done it by myself. It wouldn't have worked. I can't use the same thinking that gets me into this situation that isn't so great to get myself out of that situation and on a new path. It doesn't work that way. I have to have new thinking. I have to have a new influence. I have to have people that have done what I cannot do or what I haven't done yet, showing me the way. And also looking at me and saying, hey, you can do this. I did this. You can do this. And that's what I'm saying today. Find that support system for yourself and know that if I can do it, you can do this. And those people will show you the way. And they will almost like hold your hand as you go. And it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling to be in a group of people that support each other and want good for each other. When I was in my drinking days, did we care about each other? Maybe to the best of our ability, but could we show up for each other? Could we support each other through a hard time? Could we really be there if somebody was really in need? I, for one, could not have. I couldn't pull crap together in my own life to really show up in a steady way for anybody else that was in my life. And today I can. And I've been able to do that for a lot of years, because pretty much what was in my way was the alcohol. And then after the alcohol wasn't the main problem, I was able to see and tackle the other things that were holding me back. And little bit by little bit, that wasn't a big deal. You know what that is? That's growing up, and that's doing life on life's terms. And everybody has to do it, or they got to find some kind of cushion, some kind of addiction to keep them from the pain of not doing it. So as my husband always says, choose your pain. And the pain of getting into the solution and working on things a little bit at a time, I'm here to tell you, is much easier than the pain of staying in that problem, of drinking at the same things day after day, the way that I feel about myself, how I've let myself down one more time. That pain is so much worse than the journey ahead. So Cathy McLeish talking about alcoholism, trying to unpack, get a little bit more knowledge, information out there so we can be part of the solution. And please subscribe and come back.